ain't finna get that money.
So I've decided to compile all my 7 support guides into one for somebody to binge watch like their own Netflix series. I've removed all the intros and outros, I've timestamped each guide throughout the bar or on the screen as a safe backup, and I've also added some extra research, which will be cited by Spilo for the majority of these new additions, especially the Moira guides. I don't ask for this often, but if you are new, subscribing to the channel and leaving a like would really mean the most, as I've spent over 200 hours scripting, researching, recording, editing, downloading, marketing, and compositing all these guides over the last few months. I don't know anybody else who's put in the work similar to that. Sharing the video also helps tremendously, as it helps these videos to hit the ground running. One major thing is that I used to use my own voice for my early guides, then I had switched to a text-to-speech bot, which if you don't know, is one of those bots you hear commentate on a Reddit thread video. I'll be placing my original guides first with my own voice, then I'll put in the guides with the TTS bot afterwards, and on the screen is the list for the guides I've used my own voice for, and the guides I use the bot for, so not to cause any confusion later down the line. One small thing is that I do speak quite fast in my original guides, so my Lucio, my Zen, and my Moira guides, so I would maybe slow the guide down if it's going a bit too fast for you. One minor thing is that I have applied to be a video editor for NA Contenders team Sheer Cold, which just so happened to be coached by Spilo. I don't think I'm gonna get the role, but if I do, I'll have to put the channel on the back burner for quite a while. With that being said, if you still want to keep up with what I do, Discord is the best place to do so, of which my own Discord is linked down in the description. Without further ado, here's the 7 guides, starting off with the Moira one. So dudes, welcome to the first how-to video on Overwatch. I'll be covering Moira in this first installment, and here are my stats, even though they don't really matter. I'll be going over her kit, how to utilize it, her possible synergies, and her overall playstyle. Moira sits in the support category and can dish out a high level of AoE healing whilst also dishing out a surprising amount of damage. Her primary fire is a suck and spray. By using Moira's left click, which you should rebind to your right click, a projectile spray is launched. It can heal multiple teammates at once for 65 healing a second, and is quite useful when used on grouped up targets to maximise how efficient you are with a spray. The range on our spray is also a lengthy 15 meters, which people think is much shorter due to the visual animation in first person. It also has a lingering effect of 65 healing across 4 seconds when you stop using the spray, which I'll cover later on. It also takes 9 seconds to empty your entire spray from full to empty, which doesn't seem that long, but that's where the sucking part comes in. Moira's suck deals 50 DPS on a singular target, also refilling her spray bar. Ideally, you would want to be using your suck on enemies and not shields in order to gain ult charge, refill your spray bar, and regen health at 20 a second. But contrary to popular belief, the suck isn't that bad at shield break, especially against a finite shield such as Reinhardt's. So if there's nothing to shoot at, don't just stare at the shield. Her suck ability has a longer range than her spray, ranging at 20 meters, which is actually the same length as Widog took. Moira's second ability is her spooky step. This makes Moira invulnerable and invisible to all effects for just under a second. She also receives a 250% speed buff, managing to cover over 10 meters of distance. But wait, there's more. It also cleanses all status and damage over time effects, so nade, dynamite, discord, mayfreeze, or any other defect will not persist when Moira exits her spooky step. And you can also avoid both Zarya grab and Sickness Flux. Being on a 6 second cooldown is arguably the best ability in our kit. The last normal ability is our Bouncy Boy. This is basically the ball version of our suck and spray, providing additional damage or healing when needed. You only really want to be using this to gain additional ult charge, which you wouldn't have gotten by using the suck and spray. Tossing the damage version past shields or using it on tanks that are critical HP would be high value. It's Spilo going over damage orb and heal orb usage in certain scenarios, and I've linked the entire video down below. All 19 minutes are extremely valuable, so I highly recommend that you watch that video, especially if you're a Moira player, but I will show a few clips instead. Firstly, Spilo going over which orb to use in the context of engagements.
So the question is, do we engage? Or does enemy engage? So in other words, look at the compositions and read that basically, are we looking to rush on top of them? Or is the enemy team looking to rush on top of us? We just saw the VOD that we just saw with the Rein Zarya versus the Orisa Sigma. What was the answer to this question? Do we engage or does the enemy engage? Yes or no to either of these? Yes, we engage, right? So then we did engage, right? So that makes heal orb more attractive. Now, what if the enemy team is running dive and we're running the Orisa Sigma? Does the enemy engage? Yes. So the question is, if the enemy is running dive or your team is running like a Rein Zarya comp, does that make heal orb more attractive? And the answer is yes. Because one of us is playing faster tempo, that makes heal orbs more attractive because either our team is going to need that big burst of healing when we go in, or we're going to need the big burst of healing to survive the rush that the enemy team is going. Heal Orb becomes more attractive because it's the more defensive playstyle. It gives out the more resource. And the question is, if yes, when? When do you estimate this engagement happen? Is it going to happen in 5 seconds? Is it going to happen in 2? Is it going to happen in 10? Because if it's happening in a couple seconds, you hold because you're anticipating an actual fast engagement where you'd want to use your Heal Orb coming up. However, if it's going to be more, like it's going to be 7 or 8 seconds, maybe longer, that's when you throw the damage orb, because then you're maximizing your ult charge during a poke stage.
With that example there, if the answer is no to the first question, you can be more lenient on your orbs. However, in short, Spilo does go on to explain that every team comp will devolve into some brawl, therefore Heal Orb is more attractive to heal up big bursts of damage. The second clip is Spilo explaining the difference in orbs in terms of discriminating between targets.
The problem is damage orb is indiscriminate. Damage orb will damage everybody equally. And if your team calls to focus Orisa, your damage orb is not going to suck on center on the Orisa. It will bypass the Orisa like everybody else, do a little bit of 40 damage, and then fade away. Right? So the problem with damage orbing during brawls, even if you guys are focusing down a target or even targets, is some of that damage is wasted, right? Because let's say you're focusing these 2 targets, right? Yes, you did 80 damage to those targets, but this damage is almost completely useless because these targets are going to get healed up by their own Moira spray and Lucio aura with no focus of their own team. So it's not even like, oh, we're going to stop healing these targets and focus on these targets. No. The Lucio is going to be in heal song as it is, so this 40 damage is going to get healed up almost for free without the Lucio even trying and without the Moira even trying. So you're in reality only getting 80 damage value out of your damage orb, which in some circumstances is enough. Like if you're damage orbing like if your team is running dive and you damage orb their Zen, 40 damage is a lot. Winston landing damage, Genji dash, Tracer blinks in 1 clips, like that 40 damage is a long way. But in most brawl comps, 40 damage is not very much. 80 damage of resources is not a lot. Whereas with Heal Orb, if you're Heal Orbing on initiation, you can control who it's healing most of the time. You will reactively heal. And the thing with Heal Orb is it will stay longer on people that need it. So you initiate with your tanks, right? And you Heal Orb your Orisa or your Reinhardt, your Zarya during critical. Like you're going to get, not only does the orb hold 300 resource, but the people outside here, right, that maybe are diving in, and your main tank and you and your off tank who are initiating, these are the targets that you want to heal, right? Yourself and your tanks. And if you Heal Orb during these initiations, these are the people that you're going to be supporting too. So it's not wasted on people out here taking chip damage, right? You're going to focus it on the targets that you want. So yeah, you might only get, 180 healing out of that. But 180 is a lot more than 80. And it's on the targets that you want to heal.
Moira's ult, Coalescence. It's a 30-meter range beam that deals 70 DPS and 140 HPS simultaneously. Likewise to Moira's spray, this can cleave teammates or enemies and last 8 seconds. Moira also receives a considerable self-heal of 50 seconds as well as a 50% increase in movement speed, allowing for aggressive plays. The first basic concept you need to nail down is balancing the second spray. You need to be balancing a decent amount of damage without becoming a DPS Moira and conversely a heal bot. There's no given ratio of damage to healing, but if you're pulling off significantly less damage than healing, I'd seriously reconsider the usage of your kit. You should be using Moira's Suck surgically, as 200 damage in the correct place at the correct time will always be more useful than 1000 damage onto shields or just trash damage. Learning how to apply this sense of surgical precision, a somewhat decent level of awareness searching for squishy targets is needed, though you'll learn this over time. I also want to bring attention to min-maxing our primary fire, which is essential for the higher ranks. Your team's playstyle is integral in determining how fast your coalescence charges, from 30 seconds to 2 minutes. To explain this in depth more, imagine both teams are running Sigma Orisa double shield with Mei Reaper and Lucio Moira. Telling your Lucio to stay on speed boost allows you to make the most of Moira's passive healing, as well as shot calling for your team to take more poke damage, which allows multiple teammates to be cleaved with your spray. Whilst this happens, actively look out for hour position enemies which allow you to take advantage of Moira's damage and healing simultaneously. When your tanks start to take damage, bouncing your bouncy boys off of multiple walls or in long straight lines allow you to maximize value. Great spots for bouncy boys would be on Iconwald, Volskaya, Oasis and Hanamura. This all may sound a bit pedantic, but when you're past 3500, small callouts to your teammates go a long way in achieving the win condition of your team. You can see this by the background footage I've been using from Action Esports' video on Violet's mastery of Moira, where he is constantly ahead of Crimso's ult charge in the mid-fight. Back to Moira's kit, With a spooky step, there's no secret Kim Jong-un rocket ship nuke interspace logic of using this ability. Simply put, if you're close to dying, use it. Otherwise, use it aggressively for coalescence, or you can learn how to fade jump. Check out this subreddit if you want to learn more about how and where to do this. Now onto some common mistakes most Moira players make. Wasting heal orb when you can tap your spray and throw a damage orb which achieves the same outcome. More subconscious mistakes would be using fade for no reason, a lack of awareness to heal more than just your tanks, and overusing the spray to heal 200 HP targets, keeping in mind it is a projectile. These mistakes you can fix in the day and are even abundant in the higher ranks. More complex mistakes and tips are with positioning and coalescence usage. Positioning strongly relies upon your team composition that you're playing, but for the most part, playing behind your main tank and within range of your off support is the ideal place to play in. Despite this, mistakes with positioning are not what you do but what you don't do. Off angles are key places to frag out and waste the most important resource in Overwatch, attention. If you decide to pick an off angle, only do it once in a team fight as you are unscouted. Good off angles to use would be Real to first point attack, any side of Icon Wall to first point, or Junkertown first point choke by the Mega or on the high ground. If you do this correctly, a well placed damage orb plus suck will make the enemy visit the Gulag in exactly 2 seconds if they don't receive any healing. In terms of using coalescence, the most basic tip is to always use a damage orb just before you ult in order to kill any opposing DPS in under 2 seconds. Most of the time you want to be using coalescence aggressively to punish bad enemy positioning or to create a ton of space for your tanks in the higher ranks. You can check out this VOD review I did of a Diamond Moira player whose main goal and problem was coalescence usage. However, coalescence can be used as a Warmark Transcendence in combination with Healing Orb, which does 2/3 the amount of healing as Trans. Here's an example of an attempted defensive coalescence. And here's an example of an attempted aggressive coalescence. Most of the time, you'll be using coalescence aggressively. If you do, don't tunnel vision on the enemy team while leaving your tanks unattended, and keep a track of CC stuns that punish your positioning. A bit of coordination from your teammates to capitalize the space you create will maximize value obtained, and since it's a cheap ultimate, you're not really losing out on too much if you do lose a team fight. Talking about coordination, team combo is very much dependent on how much value Moira gets in the higher elos. There's 3 main comps you'll see: Brawl, Poke and Dive. They all have different sub-genres, but they stick to one general playstyle. Moira actually doesn't do badly in any of these compositions. As I mentioned earlier, you can clearly see that she's used in Poke at the highest levels and not exclusively to Brawl only. Despite this, the manner your team plays on each composition on each different map is what really matters. Violet managed to receive more value than Crimson because of how the Shock are playing in spite of the mirror, hence why raw compositions suit Moira best, as you're guaranteed to have your Ryan take damage in CQC, whereas Poke relies upon range, damage and versatile shielding, in which Bap Zen or Bap Brig is more suited to. Dive is a tricky comp for Moira and very map dependent. If staging and diving from high ground to low ground, she does well, while maps such as Dorado second point, she'll struggle to find any value from the low ground as team fights and ranged Poke normally takes place above where she plays. Overall, stick to Moira and Brawl and Poke and think twice about picking up a dive. If you keep losing teamfights when running Poke v Poke mirrors, consider swapping. The penultimate bit of this video is Moira synergy with our other support. I'll go through this bit quickly as I don't want this video to be too long, which is why I've been speaking so fast throughout the entire video. Moira pairs best with Lucio to provide the speed to complement the healing that steamrolls most teams, although this doesn't mean too much in ranked as Moira doesn't really have any bad pairings anyway. Moira Brig is great against anti-dive and provides high healing, but there is no defensive ult and your main tank can't kite. Moira Mercy is specific for enabling a DPS pocket such as an Echo pocket or a Far pocket, whilst providing a high level of healing to your tanks, but there's no utility to enable anyone else. Moira Zen provides high damage and high healing with the defensive ultimate, but Dive will dismantle Moira Zen as Moira would expend half her spray trying to heal through a Winston barrier, which is detrimental to the Zen and to her tanks. Moira Honor and Moira Baptiste is simply not optimized and lacks utility by overcompensating for healing, hence why Lucio Honor and Zen Bap are used instead of Moira. With that being said, Moira with any combination of the other heroes shouldn't really be a deciding factor to whether you win your games below Master, and if you want Honor, Zen or Bat main being Dove, Moira is a great alternative. I'd also like to mention that I think Moira Mercy will be especially powerful due to the addition of Echo into the game. Echo is a lot more powerful when having a Mercy pocket as her ultimate is possibly one of the best ultimates in the game, especially at lower elos. Moira would also be great to aid the tanks whilst not being too susceptible to dive heroes. Moira Honor and Moira Bap also still has its strengths. For instance, if one healer goes down, you still have a main healer providing a better backbone than if an offer support were to be solo healing. It also allows Honor and Bap to be more aggressive with their abilities due to the high level of healing, so in essence, you can decide the trade-offs you want to make. The last bit of the video will be going over small bits of Moira tech. Firstly, the Orbiter Fade Cancel.
The power of destruction.
Secondly, tap Moira's Suck since you gain back your spray bar faster. Thirdly, Orb into Coalescence.
Surrender to my will.
Fourthly, jump at the end of Moira's fade. And lastly, melee off the coalescence. Finally, I want to leave this video off with this quote from Jayne. One person doing something dumb is a mistake, two people doing something dumb is a strategy. If you play Moira, don't just be a brain-dead heal bot who doesn't actively seek opportunities to take the game into their own hands. But conversely, make sure you have a somewhat coordinated plan with your teammates in order to not come across as a dumbass your entire team, whether it be an Orisa halt, tracking CC abilities, or your tanks pushing forward. Even if it fails, you'll learn from that strategy, as Jayne would call it, so don't be afraid to take calculated risks. If you're in the higher elos, don't be deterred to play Moira even if you get flamed for it, which every single Moira main on this earth has experienced. And that's really all you need to know about the sucky scientist. Mercy's weapon, the stick, allows her to deal either 55 healing per second or apply a 30% damage increase to a single target up to 15 meters. Important interactions that wouldn't be considered tech would be that Mercy gains ultimate charge equal to the damage she amplifies, and in order to amplify projectile damage, Mercy must be boosting the hero when the projectile was fired. This means that if Mercy stops boosting even after the projectile was fired, the added 30% boost will still take effect, hence why Ash Dynamite is so powerful as early ult charge. Firstly, since the beam acts on line of sight, you cannot attach it onto a single target from behind a wall. However, there is a 1.3 second grace period where if the beam is attached prior to breaking line of sight, the beam will still apply the desired effect. This means in a sniper duel, you should be corner peeking to minimize the exposure of your own hitbox while still applying the damage or healing effect. Note that this also applies if Mercy is out of our 15 meter range. Secondly, the logic behind when to heal and damage boost is roughly the same with Ana and Moira. If the target you are healing doesn't need it, you should almost be exclusively using the damage boost. Notice I said target and not team, as that will be the job of your other support, specifically if you are running another primary healer. Here's Spilo explaining this concept a bit further.
In this instance, it was actually less of an issue than it would have been because you had a Zenyatta. So you were forced to heal your tanks occasionally, and that's the necessary evil. But if you're going Ana Mercy, Moira Mercy, Baptiste Mercy, ooh boy, you hardly ever heal. Pocket, 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 pocket. And actively think about who needs a pocket right now. You did it with the Blade. Yeah. Do it with the Deadeye. Do it at the range differences with the Hanzo long range, McCree short range. Do it with the instances or cooldown usages like Halt Hook or Reinhardt Fire Strike. Things like that. And you're going to see like your ult charge bump up, and like we said, it's free real estate, right? And you're going to get eliminations. You're going to get eliminations that would not have happened otherwise. Because you could look at this and say, hey, maybe there were like 2 or 3 elims that wouldn't have happened without damage boost. And maybe those 2 or 3 eliminations were spread across 2 fights, and we won 2 fights because I pressed right click. In addition, if you're the team that's doing more damage, if you damage boost your Hanzo Stormbow and it breaks the Rhine shield because of the damage boost, that team's not going to be pushing for 5 or 6 seconds. So you just bought your team another 7 to 8% in the control meter.
Thirdly, since your beam isn't burst healing, if you think that a burst of damage will be incoming soon, for example a shield about to break, switch beams preemptively.
Heal, unfortunate. Little slow in the swapping the heal orb there. You could actually anticipate when you need to swap to heal. When you start to see like a shield busts, you swap to heal preemptively, right? You expect him to take damage, so you go ahead and swap the heal beam before he takes damage so that he's immediately healing up the 50 HPS as the damage is coming in.
Fourthly, damage boost a target who's close to a game-changing ultimate for the next fight. A great example would be Ana who's 20 away from Nano Boost, or Zente build-up Transcendence. Lastly, damage boost instances of damage. This requires the most awareness of what cooldowns your team uses alongside where your teammates are, but an example would be after a McCree lands a flashbang, after a Reinhardt fire strikes, or after your hog hooks. Note that, as mentioned prior, you only need to damage boost projectiles after they've been fired, then you can swap off to a different target to help min-max your output. Mercy's first ability, Flying Boy, makes Mercy fly towards a targeted ally at 17 meters per second up to a 30 meter range with a cooldown of 1.5 seconds. Her angelic descent also allows her to slowly glide downwards at 2 meters per second. As usual, starting off with tech. Firstly, the lateral slingshot. This is simply jumping at the end of your GA to gain some extra distance. Secondly, the vertical slingshot. This is the same as before, but the target you are flying towards is above you, as EVA describes here.
Pretty much just someone jumping in front of you, you can launch yourself up to 15 meters up in the air.
Thirdly, the classic super jump. This is crouching and using Guardian Angel at the same time, and jumping at the very end after you perform a small hop to launch yourself in the air. In terms of uses, here's Spilo going over an example.
Great super jump, great pocket. That might have been the best play you've had so far on either Lucio or Mercy. Check this out. Super jump, pocket, save your Widow life, swap to heal at the right time. Beautiful work right there.
Fourthly, the backward super jump. This is when you are above a teammate and you Guardian Angel when you are about to touch the ground, followed up by a jump afterwards. The distance from you and your teammate needs to be roughly 1 to 2 meters apart, otherwise you'll just Guardian Angel forward like normal. Fifthly, the backwards Guardian Angel. This is the same as the backwards super jump, but you can do this on level ground, which needs you to jump prior to using your Guardian Angel. Lastly, the diagonal Guardian Angel. I've only seen this once, as you can see Tensa perform here in Contenders, and I assume the Genji counts as terrain, allowing the Mercy to fly above his blade. Whilst this is incredibly niche, I've never seen this in a Mercy guide, hence I thought I might as well be the first to it. In terms of usage, there are 3 main pillars or questions to ask yourself, otherwise known as RSW. Firstly, is the Guardian Angel risky? Secondly, how short should my Guardian Angel be? And lastly, is there a waste to use Guardian Angel? Going over the first point, here's Mineral explaining the risk associated with some Guardian Angels with some cost-benefit analysis.
I'm gonna die most likely.
Really don't like this. So you have to, again, value your life way more than anyone else's. You're way more important than a tracer. Even if your tracer dies here, it's fine. You guys can fall back, and you already have staggers. Your tracer will be back pretty fast. But if you shift in here and you die, you lose the point.
Secondly, here's Mineral explaining why, especially against snipers, shorter Guardian Angels are preferred.
They have snipers, so you have to use cover, right? You're gonna reach her. Like, your Pharah can't really go any higher. The skybox on this map is pretty low, so there's no need to go for a shift like this where you go over her head, because now you're completely exposed from this angle from snipers. Maybe a Sombra decloaks here, pokes you a little bit, and then Ashe hits you, and then you're dead. So you have to make sure that you don't overexpose yourself. Do shorter shifts and cut them more often. Linking
into awareness here, Mineral yet again explains another benefit of cutting your Guardian Angels, which is to spot any squishy target who needs healing.
You cut your shift here, you stop, you float, and you fly up here. He doesn't want to fight these guys. He only wants to go for the Widow. So you have to understand the win condition. Pressure the objective, mark the Widow, because Widow is the only hero that can potentially one-shot anyone on their team.
Lastly, here's Spilo explaining how using Guardian Angel can end up in you being caught out of position with no escape.
All you need to do is walk forward so that your beam doesn't break to here, and then maintain the beam. All you do by traversing this distance is you put yourself at the risk of more damage, and you remove the cooldown that you might need to escape. So if this Lucio turns around and shoots at you, you still have your Guardian Angel. But if you Guardian Angel across here, and then they're all brawling here, you're gonna have to sit there and take it for 2 seconds.
Mercy's second ability, Uno Reverse Card V2, brings an ally back to full HP, taking 1.75 seconds to cast, with a 5 meter max range, a decreased movement speed of 75%, and a very lengthy cooldown of 30 seconds. Firstly, Resurrect is interrupted if Mercy is more than 7 meters away from her target whilst channeling. This becomes especially apparent in Valkyrie with our increased movement speed. This leads me nicely onto my second point, which is to strafe across all 3 axes in Valkyrie in order to stay in range, whilst maintaining some capability to avoid damage. Thirdly, you can perform a super jump res by simply resurrecting after you jump in the normal super jump. Here's Honor explaining it in a more broken down version.
Level 4 is the highest point at which you can super jump vertically. If you attempt a super jump res at level 4, your res will cancel and you will fly upwards like normal. To super jump res, you will need to time your jump a little earlier, around level 3, so you don't have enough vertical momentum to break the res, but enough to keep you off the ground and fall when you revive your teammates, making it a lot harder for enemies to hit you or stun you.
I also recommend this workshop code as given by one of my viewers, which I believe is better than Karku's listed workshop. Fourthly, linking to the first point, try and res around corners and utilise your Angelic Descent to resurrect whilst falling behind cover. A great example of the latter would be on Havana's second point by the vertical pipe canisters. Fifthly, utilise the 10-second respawn timer instead of resurrecting straight away to pull off last second resurrects. This is because by waiting a few seconds, both teams will have engaged, therefore cooldowns are exchanged between both teams, therefore attention is drawn elsewhere for you to get away with your resurrect. If there's one thing you should take away from this video, it's that very concept. For the penultimate tip, ask for resources such as Zarya Bubble, Diva Matrix, or even Transcendence in order to get away with your res safely. For the last tip, simply top off teammates before you res, as you can't heal for almost 2 seconds. Mercy's ultimate, Moth Lamp V2, gives Mercy increased speed, a 20 HPS self heal, a 60 HPS ally heal, and a chain heal with a range of 10 meters. The range for her staff and GA are also doubled. Apart from tech mentioned prior about strafing in Valkyrie, an obvious but overlooked tip is to be aware of your chain attachment range.
Remember that the beams created by Valkyrie have a range of only 10 meters, which doesn't cover the entirety of many objectives. Keep track of who your original beam target is so you can min-max the amount of impactful allies hit.
With usage, there are two main uses with a few niche uses. The first is the Valk to initiate, as Spilo goes on to further explain here.
If you're up one or down one, using Valk can sometimes switch the tide in your favor or just keep the fight going.
I always look at Valk as like the perfect example of the tempo ult. Like the fight has started, you now Valk. That basically triples or even quadruples your effectiveness because you're pocketing every single hero in the game. Now, obviously, you might have to turn off the damage boost to heal, but it just triples your effectiveness for a short period of time, and that is significantly underrated. And it makes you impossible to kill as well, so you can't turn off that support. So I look at it kind of like in the way that you were thinking about my Genji initiates, I'm going to Valk. Any initiation should trigger a Valk. It's not a hugely valuable ult, and just simply using the ult to win a fight is great. Don't counter, be proactive.
The second, which is more of an extension of the first point, is the Valk when you're one up or one down. This can help buy time for your team to be back to full resources or to quickly end a fight with just Valkyrie in a 6v5 situation. With niche uses, utilize the mobility from Valkyrie to be able to go deep into enemy territory without feeding, such as pocketing a Genji blade with Valkyrie. For the last niche use, Battle Mercy is quite underrated. As I don't have enough time to cover a pistol individually, it deals 20 damage per shot, with each projectile moving at 50 meters per second, and you should generally only use the pistol when you can't heal anybody. However, in Valkyrie, Mercy gains infinite ammo on a pistol with a double projectile speed, making it much more lethal. Utilize this by Valking to reach backline snipers quickly and then burst them down with a pistol. If you miss your shots, or if the sniper is being pocketed, don't even bother trying. Just retreat to your team, as you'll gain infinitely more value pocketing your entire team. On to the penultimate section of the guide, positioning and awareness. With Mercy being a low mechanically demanding hero, it's important you make vital calls, as MineralOW goes into more depth here.
Now, when you're going for this shift, what do you need to say?
I'm leaving you to Farah.
Now, your Farah has absolutely no idea that you just left her. So you either need to do one, tell her you leave her and to tell her that she should please save. You have kill potential right now on your Farah. Or number two, order her to fall back and kill this Winston.
When playing Mercy in a range comp, such as Farah Widow, you must always be in a position to where you can fly back to your Widow.
Look around a lot more. Like, you're looking at your Farah's way too much. You have to always look back. Where's my Widow? Where's my Widow? Not only for her, but she is your defensive pivot. Widow is sort of also part of your group, and she's going to be somewhere behind you, so she's going to be a pivot for you. Like, Ana starts shooting you, a diva flies at you, you have to know where the Widow is, because that will determine how far you can move up. Because if you would realize, oh, in this situation, I don't have LOS on the Widow, you would reposition differently, just so you have an escape.
There are some important calls that MineralOW highlights in Valkyrie as well.
What else is good, like a good call, get into the habit of doing when you're Valking?
Calling that you're doing it, or calling I can contest point.
And what else?
Stay close together.
I mean, that's the big thing that I was looking for. Especially when you're solo healing, when you're brawling on the point. Very important that you call, stay on Hammond or something like that. Especially with a composition like this, where there's a lot of 200 HP targets. Like you saw, when everyone gets kind of low, it's very difficult for you to keep all of them up. And when you're using Valk, that's the perfect time where all of them can get topped up, or all of them can get damage boosted. And that's an insane amount of burst that you can put out. But that's, again, up to you to create that scenario. A group on Hammond, a group on point for heals or something like that. Heals on point, everyone's going to come to point. So we're coming back to these mid-fight calls that you really need to start making.
As a niche but important tip for scrims, is actually body block during an important ultimate such as Barrage.
Koma routinely does this, risking his life as the Mercy to give a sort of soft tanking onto the Farah, jumping in front of the line of sight of the enemy, body blocks. And because Mercy has an innate self-heal, swooping in to block the line of sight and tank a bit of damage and then fly back out, adds further sustain to the pharmacy combo. But more importantly, even if the Mercy were to die there, it's more important for the Barrage voice line to finish, because that's the win condition of the fight.
Lastly, ending off with backline synergies as usual. Mercy Brig. This is optimized for dive comps as you heal the DPS whilst Brig heals the tanks. You also do not need to worry about peeling for your other support, although keep in mind that Mercy Brig is one of the worst backlines for broad comps, as you have no defensive ultimate and no speed boost to kite from danger. Mercy Honor. This is potentially Mercy's best pairing due to a mix of utility and high healing alongside some self-sustain. This caters best to a slow-paced dive with ranged DPS, with your tank's posture on the front line to prevent a dive engage. Your job is to pocket your DPS and let your Honor heal the front line. Mercy Lucio. The most popular ranked duo due to how much self-sustain each healer has. This works best in dive comps in order to make the most of the speed boost. Healing tanks or DPS depends on the style of dive and how reliant your DPS are on health packs. Mercy Zen. This is the most brittle combo due to low tank healing. This means you may have to prioritize aggressive tanks over pocketing DPS. However, keep your distance to utilize the shield break and try to tell your tanks to not force engagements if it's not needed. Mercy Moira. With an incredible amount of healing, you should almost exclusively be pocketing a DPS. However, due to low utility, TTK and damage, alongside having 2 weak support ultimates in comparison to the others, your skill cap may be limited. Mercy Bap. Similar to Mercy Moira, pocketing your DPS is a high priority, although make sure to look behind in order to peel for your Bap as he has no escape. Bunker comps suit this duo best, especially with the experimental changes. Lucio is armed with a Soundstone 9000. Lucio dishes out a decent amount of damage by shooting out a 4-round burst doing 20 damage per round, meaning that theoretically, you could burst a Tracer if landing all 4 shots on the heads. You have 5 of these bad boys in a clip with a somewhat lengthy reload time of 1.5 seconds. The rate of fire of the Soundstone 9000 is just under a second to release all 4 rounds within a single burst. It's a bit like Genji Shurikens in the sense that you have to constantly adjust your aim in order to have all rounds hit, hence aiming with this thing isn't the easiest task in the world. It also doesn't help that the projectiles move quite slowly compared to Zen Orbs or fire rockets. Other than that, there's not much to using as primary fire, it's great for spam and gaining ult charge, and if you hit your shots, it's a quite lethal weapon in taking duels against DPS characters, which I'll get onto later. Lucio's second ability, the Boopy Boy, is an alternate fire from the Soundstone 9000, dealing 25 damage on a 4-second cooldown. It consumes no ammo, so if an enemy is on a single bar of HP, a simple click will finish them off. Considering that it has a range of 8 meters, it can also be much more effective than meleeing, although the most important detail that I'll mention later is that there's a CC knockback effect allowing enemies to be pushed off of a map. In combination with the Soundstone 9000 and some decent mechanics, you have the ability to one-shot a 200 HP character by landing 4 rounds in the head, and booping followed by a melee, dealing 205 damage. You're most likely to pull this off against characters with speed self-penalties, such as Honor or Widowmaker while scoping in for instance. Otherwise, use this to peel for your backline support, booping enemies off the map, or to finish off low HP enemies. Lucio's third ability, the Musical Mood, can be deemed to be a secondary passive to his Warride ability, which I'll get onto later. At one time, you can choose to have either 16 HPS or a speed buff of 25% applied to you and your teammates in a 12 meter radius. Also important to note that the heal is about 75% when applied to yourself. You'll see most Lucios rapidly switch between the two songs to create unpredictable movement, which is most useful when dueling a DPS. Throw in some AD strafing, crouching and jumping and you'll become a very difficult target to hit. Though keep in mind, just spamming AD on your keyboard will actually make you more predictable, so lean either left or right stronger to solve this problem. Speed is best utilised to conserve as much shield resource when moving through a choke, as well as kiting when the opposing team has more resource, such as a Nana Blade or a high charge Zarya alongside a Nana boosted Reinhardt. The heal song is best utilised to gain ult charges, small grace periods to gain sound barrier faster. For instance, using your heal song mid-air will not slow you down while simultaneously providing healing to the rest of your team. If you're on bronze, silver or gold and sticking to the heal song too much, you might as well be playing Brigitte. Either song for peeling a backline support is somewhat useful, although in a somewhat coordinated team comp, sticking on speed can increase evasiveness and can allow for the other support to kite to nearby safety. Lucio's fourth ability, the Revving Redliner, accentuates either songs that Lucio plays from his musical mood for 3 seconds. His healing song goes from 16 HPS to 52 when applied to allies, and from 12.3 HPS to 40 when applied to himself. Conversely, his speed boost goes from a 25% buff to a 60% buff in speed, allowing a Reinhardt to move at over 7 meters per second when holding his shield up. The cooldown is a noteworthy 12 seconds, hence you should be using this ability with careful thought during a teamfight. Lucio's passive, Sideways Skate 4, allows him to wall ride, gaining a 30% speed buff and a boost of momentum when he leaves the wall, which can also be stacked multiple times. Despite this being a passive, it is one of the most complex abilities to exist in the game, with an incredibly high skill cap to master. The most basic and important tips for wall riding that I can give is to wall skim and to look upwards whilst wall riding to gain more height, although I highly recommend that after you go watch this video, you should check out the extremely in-depth guide made by a collection of Lucio mains, including SK, on how to master wall riding. I'm simply not going to cover the intricacies of wall riding since it would be a waste of my own time and your time, and it would be less clear and concise. On both console and PC, the default keybinds are terrible, so here's the keybinds that I use on console, although a trip to Reddit can also be useful to find better or more suitable keybinds if you're on PC, or if you simply don't like the keybinds that I use. The passive itself can be used to gain high ground, perform rollouts, gain speed for a quick assassination, or quickly peel for your team. Talking about the form one leads me onto an area not covered by many Lucio guides, positioning. About a month ago, Jayne had uploaded a video going over specific clips from a mid-master Lucio player, not abusing high ground and essentially staying on the low ground for the majority of the fights.
Because even the Ashe can coach gun up on top of here and then use a dynamite or anything like that. But if she coach guns up there and she's not assisted by her mercy or something, you can realistically take her, especially in these close range matchups, especially if she tries to scope in or anything like that. So you're going to see this kind of play out here, where not only are you talking about healing, but you need to be able to do what you're doing with your healing, but while doing other things, providing scouting information. If you're on a vertical sightline, you're definitely going to see way more of what's going on. You're going to be able to see opposing positions. If you just land a couple of left clicks onto the Zenyatta in the back line while you're floating up here, then that means that the Zenyatta needs to play safer. It's going to be easier for maybe your McCree or McCree rather to land a headshot on, maybe finish him off. If the Mercy has to go and heal him up, then that's going to be resources you're drawing away from the front line. But because the opponent is going to be way better at the shield break and this kind of frontline resource war, you need to try desperately to make sure that the opponent is going to be losing as many resources that would otherwise be invested into your poor Reinhardt, as well as making sure that the opponent can't do anything cheeky like shooting past your Reinhardt and getting some like massive dynamite plays or being able to poke or dive anything with the actual diva standing up there. So high ground contest, so you have more options, more lethality choices to, if you do see like the Zen gets to half health, you can amp speed, go nuts. But this high ground position will also just give you a lot more options because you're going to have a better information that you can use to decide whether you do need to amp heal, which ideally you really don't want to amp heal. You want to be able to use this speed advantage against the Zenyatta to engage, because you have not only the wall but the Lucio to try and pick your engages. The defenders can't pick the engagement nearly as well, but they do have the superior resources in just a straight up frontline brawl.
I'll link the video down below, but in essence, places such as the high ground opposite Cafe on Hollywood First Point are great places to hold, as you deny the high ground from DPS via your Boopy Boy, your aura can still reach your team, and you still have the ability to quickly peel for your other support who should be in Cafe. Another great place to hold would be anywhere on the high ground on the Barney First Point. Let's take the example that you have an Honor playing back side of point, and a Genji, Tracer or Doomfist dives the Honor. You can easily wall ride to help peel for your Honor, whereas a character such as Moira isn't able to peel, or the Honor is forced to play closer, in which she is more prone to danger. Lucio's ultimate, Barrier Boy. As a temporary 750 HP shield to all teammates that have line of sight to Lucio in a 30 meter radius that lasts 7 seconds. The most obvious thing to mention is the cast time of just over 700 milliseconds in which you can be easily stunned. As a general rule of thumb, if there's no Zarya or Sigma, beating for aggression to allow your entire team to use their own abilities aggressively is of high value. There are many nuances. For instance, if there's a Sombra on the enemy team, it is your own sole responsibility to hide from the Sombra and ult tracker, so that once she EMPs, you can follow up with a beat after, similar to how I did in this clip. Another nuance is wall riding to avoid Reinhardt shatter in case your Reinhardt doesn't block, hence you can drop the beat to save your entire team, which was done by the Vancouver Titans back in the Ghost meta.
I'm his wall riding at all times. He's amazing at this. He doesn't get hit by the shatter and is able to land his own sound barrier, saving his team from death.
The final main nuance is that you dropping beat doesn't always mean you're safe. For instance, you are still vulnerable if you drop a beat in a grab if there's enough burst damage, as you can see by this clip from Jayne.
And I would like to point out in that last fight that Veltal did beat, but again, it didn't save them, right? This is why support ultimates in this meta are used for much different reasons than trying to survive gravitons. Especially in the case of beat, the chance of you getting stunned out of beat in the middle of a grab is actually pretty high.
With that being said, if timed correctly, you can avoid burst damage from a Riptire or provide more time for your team to escape line of sight from a high noon. In terms of team comp, it's pretty vital in determining whether you can play aggressive and be a red at Lucio, or be more passive in order to enable your tanks. The most fitting comp for Lucio is Ryan's Zarya Brawl, to simply allow your Ryan to swing his hammer and be more efficient with his shield resource. Dive is also very viable with Lucio, although Mercy Zen, Brig Zen, or Brig Ana can be seen as more viable, with Mercy enabling the DPS, Zen providing extra damage on a singular target, and Brigitte providing a stronger backbone. The poke comp with Sigma Orisa is possibly the worst synergy that Lucio has apart from the highest levels, as teams that are uncoordinated will not rotate, hence the speed is of little value. However, even though running Bap Zen or Mercy Zen, especially if the experimental changes go through, are more optimal on paper, running Lucio with double shield in ranked will hardly matter, as it will allow you to play more aggressively. If your team decides to run some form of poke, taking high ground and duels against DPS such as Ashe, Soldier or Genji would relate stress of your entire team. Obviously some game sense comes into this, for instance, not playing too close to McCree as he can stun you, or expecting a mercy pocket and calling for your diva or DPS to aid you would be the right move. This leads me on to the final section of the video, your synergy with your other support. If the experimental changes go through, it may be an indirect nerf to Lucio as Lucio Moira and Lucio Honor becomes less viable, with Mercy Zen or Mercy Bat becoming more viable. Despite this, Lucio Honor and Lucio Moira are probably the best synergies for Lucio, as they are more suited to more brawl style comps from the get-go. If running Lucio Moira, you can be more aggressive as Moira shouldn't need much peeling, whereas the opposite is true for Lucio Honor. Lucio Brig is actually not a low amount of healing as many people think, and if you are running this, brawl comps or dive comps suit this best. Lucio Mercy is similar to Lucio Moira as you won't need to peel for your Mercy, although tanks may be on low healing, hence a Bull Monkey or Bull Diva is most optimized, as Bull does not require much healing as Winston. Lucio Bap and Lucio Zen are the backlines that you shouldn't run, as if you get dove, your tanks will immediately fall. In conclusion, mastering Lucio's primary fire and wall riding will allow him to take space on the high ground to dual DPS. However, if your tanks are struggling to make and take space, sticking with them to speed them past choke is the second best thing you can do. And that's all you need to know about the Boosty Booper. Zen's primary fire is the blue balls. These do 48 damage per shot with 20 in each clip. You can charge up Zen's blue balls to release them all in one burst, with Zen being able to hold a maximum of 5 orbs, taking half a second to charge each orb, one-shotting any squishy target. This, in my opinion, is the most lethal support weapon in the game barring ultimates, as they are the second fastest travelling projectiles in the support category behind Honor on scope shots, and he is the only support who can one-shot 200 HP characters. There isn't too much using the blue balls as it's mostly just common sense. One thing to note is that you do a surprising amount of shield break and you have the ability to duel DPS players, similar to how I did to this Genji twice on Junkertown. And once you start mastering and hitting your shots, you'll start thinking trans is overrated. Using your orb volleys when turning corners to potentially one-shot mouse and keyboard Widowmaker players is definitely satisfying. Or to create a man advantage out of nowhere. Just something to keep in mind, there was a short recovery period of 0.65 seconds after using your orb volley, which can be a liability, and Jayne even mentioned it back when he was watching my montage.
There's a lot of times where you're like right-clicking when you certainly don't have to. So like left-clicking is higher damage, and it also allows you to more finely control the actual like release of orbs. And then right-click also has like a recovery period where you've like launched the orbs out and then you need to recover and you can't like continue shooting. So right-clicking just based off of the audio cues, especially in 1v1s, can be pretty abusable. And you don't really want to do it unless you can like confirm kill somebody, especially when there's like corners involved and the opponent doesn't have to peek you. Right-clicking can be a liability.
There is also some tech to help you maximize value from your orbs. The first is to weave in your Discord and Harmony orbs between your shots as an animation cancel, taken from card Q's Zen tip for every hero. The second tip is to take advantage of Zen's animation when he orb volleys. After using orb volley, Zen does this animation where he ducks his head to his chest, and you can take advantage of this by peeking a corner, then orb volleying to throw off a Widowmaker who has a crosshair on that corner. The third tip is that you can one-shot a Tracer by Discord headshot plus melee. The fourth tip is just a simple strafe technique.
So the first and easiest hit like movement pattern on Zenyatta is just to kind of like go back and forth at the rate of fire.
And the fifth and final tip is just a corner peek.
Yeah.
And shooting around corners like that.
Zen's second ability, Healing Harmony, is an orb given to an ally dealing 30 healing per second. The maximum range that you can apply this orb is 40 meters, and if you do not have line of sight for more than 3 seconds, the orb will detach from your ally. Nothing much more to say than that. You'd be surprised at how simple of a concept it is to use these orbs, and yet the terrible execution most Zen players have at using it properly. Placing them on flankers to give them an effective 90 extra HP to take duels is the most obvious thing a Zen player could do. However, this varies on the win condition of each team. For instance, it would be more effective to place your Harmony orb on your Reinhardt if your team has more shieldbreak damage and your opponents are running an anti-dive backline. A common misconception that I already know has been mentioned before, but I might as well say, is better to put your Harmony orb on someone who's full HP but about to take damage, rather than someone who's low HP but is safe. Zen's third ability, Destructive Discord, is an orb given to a target, making them receive 30% more damage. These again follow the same rules as the Harmony orb. Discord is especially powerful if used on characters taking mirror duels. For example, back in the Ghost meta, it would be a Brigitte's job to call for a Zen Discord in the opposing Brig if they wanted to challenge for a duel, which would be based on whether the Brig is out of position or not. Obviously, if you're challenged to a duel by a DPS on a flank, or if you decide to challenge them, placing Discord on them will help you and your teammates kill whatever's focusing you. Discord also basically gives you wall hacks, helping you to take these duels. Makes Zenyatta invincible to all attacks and stuns in Overwatch, whilst dishing out a ridiculously high 300 HPS in a 10 meter radius that lasts 6 seconds. Currently in the meta, trans is considered to be overrated since the ridiculous level of healing is simply not needed alongside how much of a glass cannon Zen already is. With that being said, if the win condition of your opponents is Grav Dragon or some other powerful combo with Grav that isn't burst damage, trans is probably the best counter for that. Knowing your damage points as Zen when using trans is key. For instance, Hanzo deals 150 DPS per dragon in his ultimate, which matches Zen's healing. However, a Nano Blade does 255 damage in his swing plus strike, which makes Zen Transcendence useless against half your entire team. Anna's Biotic Grenade also makes your trans useless for over half the duration, hence you should be keeping an eye on that cooldown specifically. Be wary that you can use trans aggressively if your tanks are playing like Alex. A few niche things before moving on. Firstly, make sure you Discord and Harmony before trans to maximize value. Sounds obvious, but even I forget to do this 90% of the time. Secondly, similar to Lucio, hide from Summer's EMP to use trans after, although this is less reliable as the range is much less. Thirdly, if you ever decide to run Zen Lucio in comp unless it's in GOATs when competitive open queue comes in July, communicate with your Lucio to stack ultimates on top of each other. Fourthly, if your reactions and ping are good enough, you can react against the Reinhardt Shatter and tank his pin to prevent a teammate from dying. Fifthly, be aware that you are still prone to CC knockback effects, so if possible, stay away from ledges. Lastly, make sure to call out your discords, not just in general, but especially in trans when your tanks can finally go apeshit for a flat 6 seconds. The penultimate and probably most important part of this video is positioning with Zen. I covered it with both Lucio and Moira, but since they have some form of mobility or invulnerability, it's not as key to their kit as Zen. The general rule of thumb that I use and I advise is HRC, which stands for health back, route of retreat or rotation, and cover. You ideally want all three, you'll probably get 2, and if you're getting 1 or less, you should consider switching. Great examples of this rule are on third point, Route 66 by the Lorry, Hollywood first point by Cafe, or first point Blizzard World high ground defense. These all have at least 2 of the HRC rule, and this alone should give you a massive advantage in taking duels. I'll cover 3 more advanced concepts: off angles, rotations, and line of sight. I've mentioned these in the past, but again, these are crucial to Zen, so I highly recommend you listen to these. When playing Zen, especially on attack, you want to be threatening a different angle to draw attention from the front line, similar to the Lucio clip from that guide I did, but unlike Lucio, you can actually one-shot someone as Zen. Here's a clip from a Jayne VOD where a low master Zen player is praised for taking off angles on Rialto first point.
Okay, left flank. Yeah, good, you got it. Is that really that hard? Is that really that hard? Soft flank, left side, found an opportunity, unscouted, surprised the Hanzo, had a right-click charge, boom. Now, you can either look for a follow-up, try and deny the res, or just fuck off. Huge, right? Playmaker. 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 You need to do that shit consistently. You want to get to the point where the opponent is fearful of what window, doorway, crevice, just fucking attic your robot ass is going to float out of and just delete somebody with a right click. You want to get to the point where you are not being hunted, you are the hunter. Right? You want to threaten that. You want to cause people's attention to be drawn off the front line. You want them to invest resources into trying to keep track of you. You want them to take different positioning because they keep just getting fucked by you. Right? So that was good. That was good. I want to see more of that.
And here's me attempting to do this on Icon Ward first point attack. And here's me successfully doing it against a Tracer on Ilios well. And finally, here's Crimzo from the Dallas Fuel, doing it against the Houston Outlaws in the main melee tournament yesterday.
They're pushing in, Crimzo's capitalizing as well on the Ember side, gonna sneak up.
When doing this, it goes without saying that you have to make sure you charge up the orbs in time and you only peek once as you were unscouted. If you miss your shots, like I did with the Icon Mode clip, you cannot peek again as the enemy team know you're scouted, but I still received value as I forced a Moira fade and I drew attention off the front line. The next concept is to do with rotations. This is when your whole team changes position based on numerous factors which I won't go through as they are hardly significant here. Zen having no mobility means that in between these rotations, he alongside Arno and Bat are very vulnerable, and mastering when to do these will push you past low master. Here's a clip of Raucus from the Houston Outlaws getting caught out in these rotations back in the Ghost meta, and OGE punishes Raucus' low HP.
In this composition with this roster.
Already Raucus taking so much damage to push forward. OGE the first swing! He takes him down. Finds first blood. That's going to be a breakup on the Dante's back as well. His point going down.
This was partly Moom's fault for not following the golden rule of Reinhardt, first one in, last one out, but clearer communication can fix this. Jayne had also mentioned in this clip that the pathing of the rotations aren't the problem, but the timing of when you rotate is.
So it wasn't the path of rotation, it was the timing of it. They pushed up, yes. They went to the left side, and when I'm talking about this being dangerous here, And crossing this being dangerous here, it is only dangerous if there are people there. So there's two things that could have made this a lot better for your team. The first is scouting or recon, so seeing what they're running earlier. And then the second thing is, if you can communicate it, of course, call the fallback or whatnot. But if you see that they're running, especially a Lucio or something, you have no mobility, you don't have no vertical mobility, so you need to rotate to the safer locations earlier.
The third and final main advanced concept is lines of sight. This will mainly matter when running Zen Ryan, and is especially important if you're going to be running GOATs in competitive open queue. I know I've used a lot of Jayne clips, but I promise, this is the last one.
And one of the benefits of coming into this area instead of crossing the bridge is that this will give Shaz on the Zenyatta longer straight sight lines. The idea behind having this attack point from the Zenyatta goats is if you can get your Reinhardt to come in here and then turn this corner, you can rotate your backline to go behind the Zenyatta, and now you have really, really straight sight lines where the Zenyatta can get a lot more value. So if you were to cross the bridge instead, and the opponent was playing around this area, if you've got your Reinhardt here, your Zenyatta is going to be back here, and he can see this angle. If their Reinhardt's using this corner, and their Ana is holding right back here, the Ana can apply value to the front line, but the Zenyatta gets most value when they can see both front lines, and they want a straight line through both teams. One of the reasonings behind whether you can choose to fight at corners or in straight lines. So whenever you're playing Zenyatta, with the lack of heals, you need to try and force fights to happen in linear trajectories. Whereas if you're going against something with Zenyatta, or like Zenyatta McCree, you want to fight around corners. So if China held a little bit farther back, then if Fraggy on the Reinhardt wanted to go contest him, he would have to turn this corner, which would remove him from the LOS of his backline.
The final bit of the video is on backline synergies with Zen, which I'll quickly brush through. Ana Zen is the ultimate glass cannon. Since there is no AoE healing, the healing is very inconsistent, and make sure to appeal for each other, as the best way of defeating Ana Zen is to apply pressure to them. If you run Zen Lucio, make sure it's a ball based comp and each DPS is somewhat self-sufficient. Zen Bap can be used for poke based double shield comps. Zen Mercy is fitted to dive comps with a Farah or an Echo. Zen Moira provides high damage and high healing, but if you get dove upon, you'll most likely receive no help. Zen Brig is only recommended at the highest levels, since managing your healing resource is the key to having your tank survive. Well, that's all for the Zen guide.
Oh man, you would not believe how much this hurts.
Brig's primary fire, the Smacky Boy, is a rocket flail dealing 35 damage in a 6-meter radius. It takes 0.2 seconds to cast the initial swing, with the rate of fire being 1 swing every 0.6 seconds. Regarding the tech, it is very similar to Reinhardt's rocket hammer. Firstly, you can cleave multiple enemies by turning the flail in the direction of both characters. Secondly, you can perform a double hit by allowing the very end of Brig's first swing animation hit the target, then allowing the start of Brig's second swing animation to hit the target. The purpose of this is to quickly finish off a fast moving target, as it will not increase your damage per second from normally swinging. In terms of usage, similar to Reinhardt, you want to be swinging in general in case you hit someone to activate Inspire, although be very wary of doing this in front of one-shot hit scan characters such as Widow. Aside from the tech listed prior and the tech that will still apply from the Reinhardt guide, Rocket Flail is the easiest way of activating Brig's passive, Inspire. To do this, simply walk up to the opposing main tank, hit them with your Rocket Flail, then immediately bash out, as Slayer Gramps states here.
Fair enough.
So, okay, so pause right there. So what I did there is the most consistent way to proc your Inspire. I go for a smack and then I bash away because it activates my Inspire right away, and I don't put myself at risk at all. It's very common to just like, oh, it's a Reinhardt without a Zarya bubble, I'm going to bash them. But if you bash that Reinhardt, you now have no mobility, and if there's a Brigitte right behind that Reinhardt, you are dead now.
Brig's first ability, the Yeet Whip, makes Brig throw her flail a long distance, dealing 70 damage, with a cast time of 0.2 seconds, and a maximum range of 20 meters. It also makes Brig move at half her normal speed, and has a cooldown of 4 seconds. There are 3 main uses to using Brig's whip shot. Firstly, to activate Inspire. Due to the much longer range compared to her regular rocket flail, you can't hit enemies that are much further away from you to start your Inspire. This will separate the good Brigs from the amazing Brigs. and could be the difference between you gaining rally and winning the fight. In order to do this regularly, you want to flail after the opponents use their cooldowns, which can potentially block your flail, or that can make it easier for you to hit. As a rule of thumb, flail when D.Va uses her matrix, so she will typically be in a more exposed position to absorb incoming damage. Flail when Sigma drops his shield. Flail when the opposing Reinhardt uses Fire Strike. Flail after Zarya bubbles herself. And flail as soon as the enemy Wrecking Ball reaches his apex when using his Pillar Driver. Secondly, to deal damage. This can be done when performing your combo for enemies at half health, or to finish off a low health enemy who are in an exposed position. Thirdly, to knock back enemies to keep your teammates safe. This can be for environmental kills, to peel for your backline, or to knock back the enemy ultimates such as Shatter when you think they are about to be used. A small but important tip to increase knockback is to shield bash but to then immediately whip shot, as Slayergrams goes to explain in this clip.
So if you bash and you whip shot them, they almost go twice the distance as if you bash, whack, whip shot them. Because by the time you whip shot them, they have control of their keyboard and they can just hold W and they won't get knocked as far.
That's actually pretty smart.
Brig's second ability, the Attach Patch, is a pack that heals an ally for 110 healing over 2 seconds, with up to 50 armor over maximum health. You have 3 charges of this ability, with a 6-second cooldown per charge. The maximum range is also 30 meters. Any added armor lasts for 5 seconds, and Repair Pack has a projectile speed of 45 meters per second, which I will mention later. Firstly, a bit of tech with Repair Pack. You can animation cancel the short recovery period after Repair Pack by immediately using Rally, which could save a teammate, and if multiple Repair Packs are used on the same target, the healing duration is increased by 2 seconds per Repair Pack, meaning that they do not stack on top of each other. With that out the way, this is by far Brig's most complex piece of kit. Choosing to pocket either your DPS or tanks, and choosing to when to overheal your teammates or not is situational. Starting with the latter, here is a few positives about overhealing. Firstly, if you know that the teammate that has overheal is guaranteed to take damage, it can add extra survivability and could save their life. A great example would be using it on a Doomfist, who can stack his shields with the added armor to prevent him dying. Secondly, you will receive Repair Pack sooner than if you used it late. This can be useful when you are down on heals, so that you can retrieve your armor pack ASAP. However, there are quite a few downsides.
Right, so you don't get ult charge when you give people armor, and you feed the enemy team ult charge because they can damage that armor and they get ult charge from it. So you have to be really cautious about overhealing people. In that situation though, I knew I was going to need my E like much faster because they were just being really, really aggressive. So I figured kind of screw it on the extra healing charge.
Moreover, when Goats eventually comes back in competitive open queue, Repair Pack acted as an extra life for your friendly Reinhardt. Using it preemptively will not only have the downsides listed in that clip, but might also cost the life of one of your tanks. I will mention later in the backline synergies section of the video to who you should armor pack to and why. I'd also like to mention that the somewhat slow projectile speed of Repair Pack may cause you to simultaneously waste Repair Pack just as soon as your teammate dies. In order to mitigate this, if your teammate is about to blatantly feed into the enemy team, do not Repair Pack them, especially in the higher ranks. Brig's third ability, the Barrier N Bash, is a 200 health point barrier that decreases movement speed by 30% and regenerates at 100 shield per second after being down for 2 seconds. She also has the ability to perform a bash, dealing 5 damage and a 0.75 second stun in a 7 meter range, with a cooldown of 7 seconds. There are a few pieces of tech, which I'll go through now. Firstly, you can use the third person view to look around and scout corners when using shield. This is very useful so that you can tell your team what type of comp they are running. Hence you can either kite or rotate back to safety, or play more aggressive around corners. Secondly, you can conserve the momentum from shield bash from jumping at the very end of the animation, gaining you some extra distance, similar to Moira Fade. Thirdly, it is especially important to shield dance considering how paper thin your shield is. To do this, allow your 50 armor to be eaten through in conjunction with your Inspire. Keep in mind, armor halves the damage from Roadhog pellets, D.Va cannons, Reaper and Doomfist shotguns, Wrecking Ball machine guns, practically Orisa's fusion cannons, and much more. Basically, you don't want to be hard shielding, and utilize your armor and Inspire to relieve some of the damage. Fourthly, you want to angle your shield square on against explosive projectiles.
Every time you see projectiles coming at you, you do not want to avoid them. You want them to hit you square in the shield, because her shield is not big enough to block any type of splash damage, like whatsoever. If they hit the ground anywhere around you, they will damage you.
Fifthly, do not jump against shatter. This will expose your feet, and since shatter has a vertical height of 2 meters, the shatter will travel under the shield and hit your feet. For the 6th tip, you can use your bash to stun enemy ultimates such as Coalescence, or to stop cooldowns such as Roadhog's Breather. Try not to play too out of position to stun these abilities, as you may be punished for this in the higher ranks. For the 7th tip, you can counter-stun Doomfist's punch or Reinhardt's pin by simply bashing into them. This is precisely why Brigitte is an amazing anti-dive character, as she puts the opposing Doomfist in a neutral stance, making him vulnerable to any damage source. For the 8th tip, you want to be minimizing your shield movement penalty against burst damage. For instance, when moving across an area covered by a Widowmaker, you can put down your shield when she is taking the extra second to charge up her next shot. For the 9th tip, you want to be aware of your damage breakpoints. For example, performing the flail, then shield bash, then flail, then whipshot combo on a full health point tracer will leave her on 5 health points. For the last tip, you can perform a shield bash jump as explained here.
Bash jumping works by having you off the ground first, then the speed from the bash will let you glide vertically off an angled object. This mechanic is both easy and hard.
Great spots for these are on Junkertown first point attack, or Route 66 second point defense. The entire point of these jumps is to gain high ground to contest DPS, or to get you out of danger. Brig's passive, Inspiration, is a ranged area of effect heal that deals 21.6 healing to allies for 6 seconds in a 20-meter radius. The self-heal from Inspire is also saved to yourself, dealing a shade under 11 healing per second. There is also a 1-second cooldown before it can be triggered again, and is triggered by her flail and whipshot, but not her shield bash. There are some few important pieces of info about her Inspire. Firstly, it does not heal lies behind enemy barriers, or surfaces blocking line of sight. Secondly, it applies a 1 effect only to allies, meaning that once the Inspire is applied, they will receive the healing even if they are beyond the 20-meter range. Thirdly, Inspire will not stack with itself. Instead, the duration resets. Lastly, if you activate Inspire, but a teammate is out of line of sight or out of range, and they move into range during your Inspire, they will not receive any healing. This means that if a teammate is just 1 meter away from the maximum radius of 20 meters, and they come into range just after you activate your Inspire, they will not receive any of the healing. Inspire is a key part to Brig building her rally. If you miss a whipshot, you could potentially miss out 15% of ult charge if all your teammates have taken a considerable amount of damage. Brig's ultimate, WRC6, makes Brig provide 15 armor every half second to teammates in a 8.5 meter radius and up to 100 armor on yourself and allies. You gain a 30% speed buff, with the duration of rally being 10 seconds, alongside the armor lasting 20 seconds after rally has been used. There isn't much tech other than you being able to animation cancel repair pack, and that there is a small 0.7 second recovery period at the start of rally, where Brig can only use her shield. Moving on to usage. Rally is a tempo ultimate. A tempo ultimate essentially means that you can speed up or slow down the pace of a fight, but you will most likely not switch the outcome of a team fight directly, unlike Transcendence or Sound Barrier. Great examples of tempo ultimates are Coalescence and Valkyrie. Knowing this information, you can use Rally in a 5v6 fight in order to wait for extra resources from your teammates, or to play extremely aggressive as you will not win the battle of attrition. This also means that you should not be using Rally if you are ult tracking the enemy team. For instance, if the enemy team's win condition is Grav Dragon, using Rally will not counter this win condition. However, you still may want to use Rally in order to force a plethora of ultimates from the enemy team. Then you win the next team fight due to bad ultimate economy. Rally can also be very powerful in the mid fight if you are unsure about who is going to win the team fight. You do not want to use Rally after or way before the team fight begins, as you will be losing out on approximately 7 seconds of extra armor, as you can only stack 100 armor, and that the armor may decay over time.
Now, it only takes like 3.75 seconds to give someone that 100 armor that they're going to keep forever. That's still 6 seconds of armor generation that is going completely underused if you're using it between team fights.
Knowing when to use Rally early or late is vital. In dive, you typically want to use Rally 3 seconds before the team fight to take advantage of the 100 armor, and your DPS might be out of the 8.5 meter radius for the rest of your rally duration. However, in a poke or brawl comp, you want to use Rally as late as possible in the mid-fight. This is because you can heal up any poke damage they take without Rally, and your teammates will be playing very close to you, so you can utilize the full duration of Rally. The first addition in this Brig guide is Spilo talking about how Rally is somewhat viable against Nanoblade if you can hit your cooldowns.
How to use Rally to counter Nanoblade? So you kind of have to anticipate it. Rally by itself does not counter Nanoblade. What Rally does is it makes it easier to counter Nanoblade if you hit your cooldowns. So you still need to bash the Nanoblade, you need to boop the Nanoblade, your Ana will still need to hit a nade on herself, or on you, preferably, like you are the better Nanoblade target because you have the extra 50 HP, but it makes it easier to counter Nanoblade because slash dash does not one-shot you. He dashes in the air, you rally, you need to hit a CC to delay him just a little bit, so that then you can do your second CC, and then you get enough armor generation.
The second addition is that you should try to not use armor pack during rally and to spread the healing done over time so you aren't at a healing deficit for 5 to 10 seconds.
Lots of packs too. Lots of packs in the middle of rally. And so now rally is over and you have no packs. I do not like this. And a lot of these packs that you've been using have been on targets that just don't need healing. Like they just don't need. They're either full HP or they're almost full HP and they're not in an engagement. Remember, pack is like a supercharged harmony orb for like 3 seconds, right? Right now your Zarya is full HP. Is your Zarya going to get value out of that armor pack? Maybe, maybe not. Is that the best use you can find for your armor pack? Certainly not. Is that your best use for armor pack? Is that your best use of armor pack on your Zarya right there? No. 1 bad, 2 questionable, 3 bad. And now you have no armor packs, and you proceed to insult to injury armor pack Bob.
Moving on to positioning. It is again very situational and depends on the map and your team comp. For instance, if your other support can sustain for themselves, and your tanks feel comfortable in the brawl, you can play a bit more aggressively. However, if your other support is prone to dive, you can hang out in the back. You can also play off angles to hunt down or deter any flankers from attacking your backline, or to potentially stun an ultimate such as Coalescence unexpectedly. Here's Spilo talking about what to do against dive comps when they have the high ground advantage.
Do you not understand how much danger you are in right now and how much danger your Ana is in right now? They have the high ground. You have on this map you can't really clear the high ground consistently from them, so you really just have to play to survive the dive. Leave cart empty, yes, or have your Tracer push cart. Look at your Tracer, or have your Monkey push cart, or have your Zarya. Well, your Zarya shouldn't push cart. Your Genji push cart. Anything at this point in the game, you've given up high ground. One of somebody else can push cart. It is your job to peel the backline here and to punish the dive and to not be a dive target yourself. Frosted feeds here. But if he and Shredlock and Wub had gone at the same time like any normal tank dive trio, you would have died before you got routed.
The last section of this guide is Brig's backline synergy Brig Moira. This is the best backline to go against anti-dive comps as both Brig and Moira are self-sufficient. Because of Moira having a lack of ranged healing, with extreme amount of healing in close range, you'll be using your armor packs on DPS over tanks. Hence this requires a decent amount of awareness. There is also no defensive ultimate, so you'd ideally want to pressure the opposing Zera or Reinhardt. Brig Bap. Brig's Inspire in combination with Bap's Regenerative Burst. A Mercy Beam is practically applied to everyone who receives both abilities. Similar with Brig Moira, you ideally want to be using your repair pack on DPS. This backline is also optimized for double shield poke comps that are vulnerable to dive, and if you are going against a Bap Zen double shield comp, you want to try and close the distance, and land those whip shots. Brig Mercy. This is optimized for dive comps, as Mercy heals the DPS, whilst you heal the tanks. You also do not need to worry about peeling for your other support, although keep in mind that Brig Mercy is one of the worst backlines for brawl comps as you have no defensive ultimate, and no speed boost to kite from danger. Brigana. This is probably the strongest duo that Brig has. You want to be using repair pack on DPS over tanks, but you may want to play more passive in case your Ana gets dove upon. You can run dive, poke, or brawl with this backline, although keep in mind you cannot kite nor have a defensive ultimate. Brig Lucio. This is optimized for brawl comps, with self-sufficient DPS as you will be healing your tanks the majority of the time. Damage dealers such as Sombra, Mai, Reaper and Doomfist pair well as they have some form of regaining health or escaping danger. However, do not run Brig Lucio on long-range poke maps as neither character has a large amount of range damage. Brig Zen. This is a duo with the least amount of healing. However, it is potentially the most volatile. This backline will test your Brig awareness, positioning, and game sense as you have to peel for your Zen, whilst not wasting your repair packs. You should be using them on your tanks, and tell your DPS to try and stay in your Inspire range or rely on health packs more often. Well, that's the guide.
Yeah, listen. We f***ed up.
Ana's primary fire. The insert biotic here. Makes Ana fire darts dealing 70 damage or healing over 0.6 seconds respectively. If Ana zooms in, the shots will be hit scan, and if unscoped, the shots will be a projectile with a speed of 125 meters per second. The rate of fire is 1 shot per 0.8 seconds, alongside an ammo capacity of 14. Starting off with tech. Firstly, scoped shots leave a tracer behind, revealing your position. This may make you vulnerable to flankers scouting you for a duel. Secondly, shots pass through full health allies, applying no effect. Thirdly, the projectile size is treated as 0.3 meters for allies, making it easier for projectile healing. However, the projectile size is smaller for enemies. Fourthly, you cancel the reload animation by using melee after the magazine is loaded into the rifle. Lastly, learn how to quickscope. As you can see on the screen, the white outline of Ana's scope appears before she actually looks down her scope. A few frames later, you want to shoot without scoping for too long. This brings me on nicely to the usage section, and why you should utilize quickscoping. Firstly, you don't need to predict the movement of your teammate if they're around a corner, as all you need to do is track them. Secondly, it minimizes how long you are spent with the movement penalty of 65% and the decreased field of view, which I'll get into why it's important. Thirdly, it maximizes the time taken to scope, unscope, then scope in, increasing your actions per minute. Knowing when to deal damage or when to heal is quite simple, similar with Moira but at range. If your team is taking damage, prioritize healing over damage. However, this does not mean you shouldn't seize opportunities such as landing 3 scoped-in shots on a Pharah who is flying too high. However, as I'll mention right now, you may not want to stay scoped in for too long. So, when do you scope or hip fire? Firstly, if you are under no pressure, you can play Niandra as Jayne would describe, where you hard scope as Ana, playing from afar, only using cooldowns on yourself. However, in any other situation, you don't want to be hard scoping, as I'll describe the pros and cons of scoping in. Starting off with the pros. Firstly, you don't have to predict movement at all, making you hit more shots. Secondly, the healing is provided at a faster rate, meaning that overall, you consistently deal more healing over time.
I think around 21 meters is the cutoff, where if the target that you're trying to heal is 21 meters or further away from you, then you're going to heal a lot more by scoping in. Whereas if that target is closer, you're going to get more healing out by using the hip fire.
However, there are some notable cons. Firstly, you are prone to being one shot from range due to your reduced movement speed. Secondly, as your field of view is reduced, you may miss out teammates around you who may need healing, leading to tunnel vision. To get the best of both worlds, you should never stay scoped in as Ana for any more than 5 shots due to the negatives listed prior. Ana's first ability, Sleepy, makes Ana fire a dart rendering an enemy unconscious for up to 5 seconds. The sleep dart deals 5 damage, has a cast time of 0.3 seconds, a projectile speed of 60 meters per second, alongside a cooldown of 12 seconds. I'll be combining both tech and usage here as there isn't much tech. Firstly, you can one-shot any 200 health hero by using sleeping first, then using your primary fire, your nade, followed by your primary fire again, with a melee at the end. In terms of usage, there isn't anything too conceptually complex about the sleep dart. You should mainly be keeping the sleep when you are against a tracer or some other flanker, and not when using it off cooldown, as even if it hits, there are multiple downsides, as Jayne goes to further elaborate here.
If you sleep this Wrecking Ball, which you did, what is going to happen? Nothing.
Honestly, nothing.
Nothing, right? So this also removes the threat of, like, as soon as the Wrecking Ball wakes up, what is he going to know? That you don't have sleep. So this is a situation where you went for like the low chance of success, low value cooldown play, which is probably the worst possible one, which is then going to remove the threat and allow the opponent to be more aggressive and take more map control, more space, because he's going to be able to use his just normal cooldowns, his pile driver to your sleep dart, second.
One small thing to mention is if you can't follow up on a slept target, you should just ignore them, as they are effectively dead for 5 seconds if you maximize the duration. Other than that, save your sleep dot to prevent ultimates such as Blossom, Mirage, High Noon, Flux, and if you can aim well, Coalescence. On the off occasion, you may be able to sleep a Reinhardt who is about to use Shatter. You can also sleep cooldowns such as Hog's Breather. Ana's second ability, the Insert Biotic here V2, makes Ana toss a grenade dealing 60 damage and 100 healing to enemies and allies respectively, with a projectile speed of 30 meters per second, an area of effect of 4 meters, a duration of 4 seconds, and a length cooldown of 10 seconds. The affected allies receive 50% more healing than normal, including from health packs, whereas affected enemies cannot receive any healing at all. This is potentially the most conceptually difficult ability Ana wields, with one of the highest skill caps in the game. I won't be going over tech as there is hardly anything useful, and even if there is, the usage is much more important than frame-to-frame optimization. Firstly, you obviously want to hit as many people with your nade as possible. However, there are some situations in which you want to use your nade on a singular target, as Mineral goes on to elaborate here.
If you're only hitting one person, you have to use it to either save yourself or save a teammate, or if it 100% guarantees a kill.
Secondly, when playing with another main support such as Moira, which I'll go more in depth in the last section of this guide, you can use your nade on a small flank in order to secure a kill, as ML7 reveals here in a coaching review.
Oh, this is risky. If you take Diana out, shit happens. As a general tip, when you do things like this and you see you're missing shots, hold your breath. A lot of the times you're going to see yourself shooting, you're going to see that you're hyperventilating because you start panicking. Hold your breath or take deep breaths, depends on the person. By the way, good idea. You have two options, either play on top as I said or go for a cheeky flank on the back. Good thing recognizing that Moira can keep your team alive and you can go on a kill onto Diana. That was very good. The intention matters, not the execution at this rating.
Keep in mind that in the majority of situations, you want to nade first, then land your 2 shots after. This is because the area of effect healing from potentially Brig's Inspire, Lucio's Aura, Bap's Regenerative Burst, or Moira's lingering effects may heal up the damage taken if you shoot first, then you nade after, meaning that you need to land 1 extra shot. Thirdly, there are certain set nades you can throw in the air, and they will hit at a certain useful area. I made a video about a year ago going over these set nade spots which you can check out in the top right, although the video quality is much worse than what it is now. Fourthly, in general, you want to be going for aggressive nades that aid your front line, and forces their opposing Reinhardt to put his shield up to block your abilities. It's difficult to give exact examples of these, however. One would be if both Reinhardts are swinging at each other, or if their Reinhardt is pushing your Reinhardt backwards, in which you can land a big nade to reverse the pressure, whilst simultaneously heal your Reinhardt. For the 5th tip, Mineral goes into depth about how to win the Genji duel by using your nade correctly.
If this is the Genji, and this is his max dash range, what is your optimal position? Say if you nade yourself, this is approximately the area of effect. You want to position yourself in a way where if he max dashes, you'll be able to hit the nade on him as well. So obviously if he goes for a max range dash and you keep max range, you'll be able to accomplish that here, right? Even better, if you position yourself just outside his range, you can accomplish that here too. Then you don't take the 50 damage, but you get the nade on yourself to top yourself up and you nade him. You want to position yourself somewhere in this range.
For the last niche tip, you typically don't want to nade yourself. This is because your tanks may need the nade more than you unless you are about to die, and you can get healed by any passive healing that your team has. Anna's ultimate, Lucio, provides a 50% damage buff and damage reduction to any teammate that Ana chooses, lasting 8 seconds, alongside the capability to heal 250 health. Nano Boost can be used in 2 primary ways, aggressively or defensively. I won't be going over the first method in great detail, as ML7 made a great video and spreadsheet whether you should nano each character if they have their ultimate or not. I'll leave a link to that video alongside the spreadsheet in the description, although I will briefly cover aggressive nano boosts. Firstly, in lower ranks, you can use nano as a validation, meaning that you are indirectly saying to your teammates to push through choke. This is mainly for lower ranks, where main tank players often stay static at choke, and they are too scared to press W on their keyboards. Secondly, aggressive nano boosts are often the initiator of each fight, with the most obvious example being Nano Bleed, where you proactively start the fight. With this in mind, you want to save utility from your team to beat the opposing enemy utility. For example, a Lucio speed boost to aid your Reinhardt whilst the Nano Blade occurs will make sure that the front line is covered whilst the squishy characters die from the Nano Blade. Moving on to defensive usage, you will be making the most of the 250 healing and damage reduction to keep a teammate alive. For instance, nano boosting a Reinhardt at 100 health will drastically revert pressure due to the burst healing, in which your Reinhardt can wait for shield resource or push in, utilizing the nano boost aggressively. Alternatively, you can nano boost your other support, such as your Zen, when he buckles against a dive comp to keep him alive, which may snowball into your Zen being able to use his transcendence as you kept him alive, or for him to utilize the extra damage to gain his transcendence faster. In summary, there are 4 main uses of Ana's ultimate, of which multiple can be applied at once. Firstly, to combo with another ultimate, such as Dragon Blade. Second, to heal up a tank, or to peel for a support. Thirdly, to apply pressure. This is more intangible, and requires a high level of game sense to know when to pull off in the middle of a scrappy fight. Lastly, to build your ultimate. This can be for a Winston who only needs 20% more ult charge for Primal, in which a nano can make him go aggressive, or for a Zen to build Transcendence. Moving on to the penultimate part of this guide, positioning. Now, if you've watched my Zen guide, this section of the guide may seem all too familiar to you. The most basic HRC rules standing for health pack, route of retreat, and cover, alongside the more advanced rule of ORL standing for off angles, rotation, and line of sight also apply to Ana in a similar way. I'll link that Zen video at the outro so you can look at those details more in depth. However, there are 2 things I want to emphasize. Firstly, high ground. This can go hand in hand with off angles. However, High ground gives you the ability to land playmaking biotic nades much easier, alongside being able to drop at any time you want with the power of gravity in case you need to retreat. The health pack side of the acronym is also less important as you already have a health pack of your own and that of your nade. Secondly, I really want to emphasize line of sight, not just on your team, but also to the enemy team, and how you need to adapt your positioning based upon the enemy team composition. For instance, SVB goes into detail about why the standard far back Ana positioning is not strong against a Widow, and why he should be holding closer to the team.
Yoshi said, okay, well, this position is good because I'll be really far away. I can't get dove on. Absolutely correct. This is too far to get dove on with one dive. This would have to be 2 dives. The problem poses, however, is if there's a Widowmaker, this is a great angle for you to get sniped. Because if you're hard scoping from here, as you will have to heal people, very easy for you to get domed by the Widowmaker in that window there, or even on the top of the gates.
Lastly, I wanted to show this clip by Jayne on where to position on Gibraltar last point.
This is going to be A, B, C, D, E, F. Where should Ana be positioned? E has literally no votes. This isn't that bad of a position. We can shoot them here. We can put a lot of damage in. There's a mini that we could retreat to here, or we could retreat to our team. E is really not that bad of a location. A lot of people voted for F, but F zones out a lot of your nice sight lines, right? Why do I care about this door? Why do I care about that door? Why do I care about this area? And then I can't really hit people around the corner. Can't hit people in there. I can't shoot under the bridge. So I actually like E better than I like F. What's the next least voted for one? A. A is the least voted for because it was here. And I agree, that one's really bad. You have your retreat here, but this door here is very easily choked off. B is a little bit better because you have natural cover. Like a Diva Bomb placed here, for example, will kill everything in this area, even into this stairwell, but it won't get people behind the cover. C is the most popular, really. There's this mini. I like the mini. Really long sight lines. If they have divers or flankers, it's going to be extremely difficult. But the problem is no real routes of retreat here. So C has the most votes, but I'm going to say because of the lack of retreat options, I don't really like this position. I do like D, however. It gives me some nice sight lines, some nice aggressive sight lines as people who will be using that corner. I can attack. I can use this sight line so people who think they're safe from the main firing lines can get hit from me, as well as I can retreat back to here. Or if I feel like the situation demands it, I can retreat to this mini. So the answer that I can come up with is if I did not have nano, I would start here, throw my grenade, try and get some early ult charge, and then as soon as they've started to push up, I'd just drop, and then I would defend from D. E to D is actually my favorite positioning on Ana here.
The last addition for this Ana guide is Spilo discussing how flexible positioning is for Ana, specifically against dive comps on small control maps.
Why do you want to hold here? There's more cover here. It's difficult for Widow to land shot. You're in a tight, closed room to where it's going to be difficult for Doomfist to be hyper effective. You have a Mega nearby. You have a good LOS in the positioning where your team wants to hold. Yada, yada, yada. But what did we just say before when we were discussing positioning? Hog and Lucio. So even though you would like to be here versus Doomfist Tracer, just about anything, unfortunately, I'm still going to swing and decide of playing on point if this is where your Hog and Lucio are playing. This is not a good position to be. It's too easy for Widow to get sightlines from here, all the way from cage side. Tracer can play back here. There's open space. There's no cover for you. Doomfist can initiate. There's lots of walls for Doomfist to punch in, but there's not a lot of corners for you to LOS the punches with. So it's like it's a terrible position for you to be in against Doomfist. This is not great for you to position, but it's better because you're closer to your Lucio and Hog when they have dive heroes. If they were not running dive, then you could be here and you'd be fine. But because they have dive, you do need to be on point, even if it's the inferior positioning. So remember, positioning has context. If you've seen an ML7 video, then you know that you should position where you were. But ML7 video doesn't always talk about where you position based off of what the enemy team is running. They are running dive. You need to be close to your Hog and Lucio.
On to the final section of the guide, backline synergies on Moira. This duo provides a high amount of healing and utility. However, you want to play extremely aggressive on high grounds, letting your Moira heal the majority of your team. You want to be asking yourself whether you can output the same amount of healing playing an off support such as Lucio or Zen, who bring even more diverse utility than you. If so, you should consider swapping off Ivana on a Lucio. This pair is optimized for Brawl, as your nade provides high value in the Reinhardt versus Reinhardt Brawl. To add on this, your Lucio's area of effect healing will heal up any poke damage, and he has the ability to peel. However, your DPS may suffer from a lack of healing if you have low awareness on Mercy. Even though Mercy is a main support, she will mainly be healing the DPS whilst you take care of the tanks. The only problem may be a lack of peeling if your Mercy is unaware, and no defensive ultimate to take care of Shatter or Grav. Under Zen, this duo is a glass cannon. If both of you can stay alive, you are practically guaranteed a free win. However, there is no area of effect healing, and the healing provided is often extremely inconsistent due to dive, meaning that your tanks may be left defenseless. Play close to each other to peel. Ana Bap. This duo is potentially the most versatile with Ana. Your DPS may struggle to get any healing, hence running self-sufficient characters such as Reaper may be optimal. Tell your Bap to be conservative with Lamp due to the lack of any defensive ultimate and a lack of escape. Ana Brig. This is most likely Brig's strongest pair. All players on your team should receive consistent healing, alongside a great level of peel when playing Brig, and 2 aggressive ultimates. However, there is less opportunity for aggressive nades as you'll be primarily healing your tanks. Well, that's it for the guy.
Do you have any idea who I am? Basically, kind of a big deal.
Bap is armed with the B-Tech Demoman launcher. This shoots a 3-round burst dealing 25 damage per round, with a rate of fire of 1 burst per 0.65 seconds. Bap can also fire healing nades, traveling at 60 meters per second, with a splash radius of 3 meters, dealing 50 healing, with a fire rate of 0.8 seconds. Here's a little bit of tech to start off with. Firstly, fire your healing nades into the air before a teamfight to either double your healing output, or simultaneously heal and damage. Secondly, you can perform an animation cancel with your nades by using melee straight after. Thirdly, you can simultaneously heal and deal damage by using your heal nades first, then immediately shoot after.
You can shoot while healing at no extra cost to your healing output. You shoot your bullets slightly slower, however the healing grenades keep the same fire rate.
Fourthly, learn recoil control at long and short ranges. At short range, the hitboxes are so large that recoil control doesn't matter, whereas the opposite is true for longer ranges. The fifth tip is knowing when to damage and heal. You want to be using your regenerative burst to heal up any poke damage at the start of a team fight, then start shooting to deal damage. Here's a clip from ML7 building on this idea.
If the enemy has certain conditions in trying to kill you, like let's say the enemy has a Roadhog hook, and nothing else that can deal with you at medium to long range, then if that condition is off, then you're free to damage. So, this case, go aggressive, walk in front, walk in front.
Other than that, try to bank your healing nades off of walls rather than directly aiming at your teammates in order to increase the probability of you healing. Bap's first ability, Inspiration D2. Bap activates a burst of healing that does 30 per second, lasting 5 seconds, with a radius of 10 meters. It also has a short cast time of 0.3 seconds alongside a cooldown of 13 seconds. Before usage, here's a little bit of added info about how the burst works. Firstly, once you activate Bap's regenerative burst, allies can go out of the 10-meter radius and continue to get healed. Hence it is not a second-to-second ping. This means you can use regenerative burst before an EMP and still have the healing. Secondly, the healing effects will not go through if your teammate does not have line of sight, or they are on the other side of an enemy barrier. Thirdly, you can weave in your regenerative burst while using your heal nades without jeopardizing your rate of fire. Fourthly, your regenerative burst will interrupt your triple shot burst, jeopardizing your fire rate. For the fifth tip, you can activate your amplification matrix and your regenerative burst at the same time. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, if you activate regenerative burst, but an ally is out of range or line of sight, then they travel into range or line of sight during the 5 seconds that regenerative burst is active. They will not receive a healing, which is the exact same as Inspire. There's not much in terms of usage as it's practically Bap's second passive ability. However, the most important piece of advice is to use your regenerative burst early instead of late into the team fight for the following reasons. Firstly, your teammates do not need to be in line of sight as soon as you activate your burst early. This is useful for when you are running Bap with mobile heroes, as your teammates can receive the added healing no matter the range, as long as you activate it when everyone is grouped up. Secondly, you are allowed to do damage whilst you passively heal up any poke damage as mentioned before. Thirdly, regenerative burst will come back online earlier, which will give you added healing in a prolonged teamfight. Bap's second ability, Moth Lamp, is a device that Bap throws to make allies immortal. This device lasts 5 seconds, with a projectile speed of 60 meters, a cooldown of 25 seconds, a radius of 6.5 meters, and the device has 200 health. The immortality field, otherwise referred to as Lamp, will also immediately heal allies to 20% health if they are below this threshold. As usual, here's a few pieces of tech that's useful to know. Firstly, if the device expires, the field generated will linger an extra 0.5 seconds, effectively making the maximum duration 5.5 seconds instead of 5. Secondly, lamp requires line of sight, but both the device itself and the field generated ignore enemy barriers, unlike Bap's regenerative burst. Thirdly, even if you are stunned during the cast animation, the device will still spawn. Fourthly, the arc that Bap's lamp is thrown at is identical to the arc of his healing nades, meaning that you can test where the lamp will land by shooting a few healing nades first, although keep in mind that his nades ignore the skybox, whereas Bap's lamp does not. Lamp will also not interrupt the fire rate of your healing nades. For the last piece of tech, Lamp has a vertical hitbox that goes above and below allies, essentially a cylinder with a diameter of 13 meters, and a height that is triple the distance between the device itself and the ground. Moving on to usage. Despite Lamp's long cooldown, you can use it aggressively. This is specific if the team fight is in a 5v6, where you need to swing the fight quickly as you will not win the battle of attrition. An easy way of using Bap's lamp is in combination with his ultimate, where you toss your lamp in a corner, then you use your ultimate to dish out higher levels of damage whilst not being able to die. This leads me nicely onto the point of wanting to put your lamp in a corner, or at an off angle, as your Overwatch states here.
Whereas, notice here, upon hearing the Genji Blade come in, I toss the lamp off of the Bastion, where it'll still give him its effect, meaning that the Genji would have to do a 180 turn to turn around to slash it.
This is simply so your lamp does not get destroyed unless the enemy team push extremely far in a short period of time. A more defensive use of lamp is to throw it in the air when you think Sombra is about to EMP you. The hack from EMP will not affect lamp as it has not spawned on the ground yet, meaning that it will still be active after EMP. Lower level players also tend to throw their lamp when a teammate has overextended, or when they feed. The only time you should throw your lamp to save a teammate is if they are your win condition. For example, if your win condition is grab drag, and your Zarya gets hooked into the enemy team, using your lamp may still keep that win condition alive. However, if your Reinhardt pins into the enemy team after you just capped first point, using your lamp is pointless. Lastly, I'll go over when to heal your teammates or to damage enemies when you have used your lamp. I'll do a simple pros and cons list of healing your teammates who are low in immortality field. A positive is that you will gain your ultimate faster due to the area of effect healing that you do. This is useful if you have a specific win condition of using your matrix. For example, doing the hold fire strike combo. Secondly, if your lamp is likely to be destroyed, healing your teammates will make them less likely to die to incoming damage later in the teamfight. Thirdly, building off the last point, healing your teammates will allow you to be more aggressive with your primary fire in the future. For the last positive, it will allow your tanks to more quickly engage into battle after your lamp has expired, instead of waiting a choke to be healed. If the enemy team are playing close, they may run over your teammates after your lamp has expired, which if you didn't heal them whilst your lamp was active, they die. Moving on to negatives, you would want to ideally make the most of your teammates being immortal for a few seconds, meaning that dealing as much damage as possible will deter the enemy team from pushing, and will maybe get a pick. Secondly, if you have another support who can carry the burden of healing, such as Moira, poking at the enemy team to get a pick isn't a bad idea. Thirdly, you can give your other support more ult charge, which may be your win condition. For example, allowing your Ana to heal up your low teammates in lamp instead of you may give her Nana boost, which may swing the fight. Lastly, you may not be punishing any bad positioning by the enemy team. Bap's passive, De Moment Wee Booties, allows Bap to jump higher by crouching first. Bap can jump a maximum of 9.1 meters if they are fully charged, which takes 0.7 seconds for Bap to do so. One thing to note is that if your crouch is released, the boots will remain charged for 1 second. However, if you crouch in this period, the charge will reset. In simple terms, use your exo boots to attain high ground, which I will mention later to why this is so important. Another basic tip is to not jump in line of sight of the enemy snipers, as you are likely to be killed. Other than that, use your exo boots preemptively to avoid stuns such as Brig's Bash, as ML7 states here.
When Brig is chasing you, or anybody that has a stun, like try to dodge it with your exo boots, especially Brig, because Brig's stun is very easy to dodge. Like it's obvious, she's running at you with shield bash, and then you can just jump over as I did over there. If I would have gotten stun, I would have died.
Or to avoid ultimates such as Reinhardt's Shatter to save your teammates with your lamp. Bap's ultimate, Will and E. Is a 5x5 meter square that amplifies healing and damage by 100% for 10 seconds. Starting off with a little bit of tech. Firstly, Matrix does not actually deal double the damage. When combined with other damage amplifiers, they are added together. For instance, Matrix and Mercy's damage beam will result in 130% more damage. Secondly, if you hold down your primary fire button whilst deploying your Matrix, you will immediately fire out one burst. This can be used to instantly flick to an enemy on your screen, although this is quite hard to do on console. Thirdly, as mentioned prior, you can deploy your Matrix and regenerative burst at the same time, or your lamp instead. There is no definitive use to Bap's Matrix. In fact, it's one of the most versatile ultimates in the game. You could use your ultimate to break choke points.
The way you should use it is not essentially in the door of the choke point, but a little bit to you, so that your team can still benefit. Like you see, if you use it here in the choke, it doesn't cover the whole choke and it's way in front. If you use it over here, then it essentially extends over the choke.
To burn through a Zenyatta Transcendence in a grav.
Like you place it over here, and then you essentially try to melt through it, okay? You need a little bit of extra damage in that scenario. But essentially you place it in front of the grav and not over here in the back, because if you place it in the back, then only you will benefit from it.
Or to burn down the opposing Orisa shield when she puts her second shield down.
Shoot. Now we shoot. Place a second shield, ult in front, break it, so Orisa doesn't have the cooldown up again.
You could also use the ultimate in a selfish way, to try and swing the outcome of a team fight, or go on a full flank in order to assassinate their backline.
On the flank windows, this isn't something I totally recommend, but honestly, if you can flank and get 2 kills, it's worth it, and like you can really divert a lot of attention. This definitely isn't something you want to be doing every game, but if you see an opportunity where this might happen, and you need to do a little bit of a risk assessment, so you need to think, if I die doing this, which is highly likely, am I going to be throwing the game, or am I confident in my ability to pick up at least 2 kills doing this, that even if I do die, I will have secured 2 kills and essentially won the fight.
I would be cautious of doing this in the highest of ranks, although it is viable in 95% of ranks. The last major use of his ultimate would be using it on one friendly teammate, to either do added healing to survive an ultimate such as Grav, or to do added damage to one-shot people. Another added purpose of doing this is to make your teammate gain their ultimate twice as fast, which is most evident with a hero such as Ana. Another niche tip before moving on, if you are feeling mechanically confident, you can quite easily kill a Pharah being pocketed by a Mercy, so don't be afraid to take this duo on. Now on to positioning. If you're running a dive composition, which you shouldn't be running as it's suboptimal, but regardless, you should be trying to play on high ground.
Right now the platform is close, so I'm going to make use of this platform because we're playing with dive comps. If you're playing like with Orisa Hog, yeah, you can play from over there in the back. But if you're playing, I don't want Diva to get the mech. If you're playing like with dive comp, then this position is very good for any healer that can get to it.
This is because any DPS that may contest you will most likely be dove upon. High ground gives you free cover, and allows you to hit your heal nades more easily, which is already difficult with dive. In general, however, you want to be hugging corners, and playing around natural cover as normal in order to effectively hide your immortality fields. You also want to be within a 10 to 15 meter radius of your tanks to land your regenerative burst, whilst still being close to your other support for peeling. Playing close to high ground will also grant you the chance to make a play with your Matrix.
By the way, see, I'm using my mobility to try to get high ground. Who can get to me on high ground? Reaper TP in the middle of the team fight? Quite rare. Brig, Orisa, Zen, Hog, Ash dead, no problem, free high ground for me.
An example of this would be on Route 66 second point defense, where you may want to jump up on the open roof to gain a wide angle to utilize your Matrix to try and swing the fight. For the final part of the guide, I'll be going through backline synergies as usual. Bap Brig. This is built for double shield poke comps that are susceptible to dive. Brig's Inspire and Bap's regenerative burst can provide a mercy beam to all teammates affected by it for 5 seconds, which is also very powerful. Keep in mind, against Bap Zen, you want to close the distance as you have less poke damage. Bap Zen, this is the most alike to a glass cannon. With a high amount of poke, hence you should be playing this with double shield, but lowest amount of healing, and no ability to kite danger. One tip is to not use lamp whilst your Zen uses transcendence, so try and use lamp after the 6 seconds if you need it. Bap Lucio, unless you're running brawl, please just don't run this duo. Bap Mercy, this is most suited to double shield bunker comps, although dive can be a viable option. If you run dive, you can play more aggressive whilst letting your Mercy heal up the majority of the damage. However, perhaps a Brig or a Zen is more suited for added sustain or poke respectively. Bap Moira, this duo has the most raw area of effect healing in the entire game. This suffers from the same problem as Bap Lucio, but to a lesser extent. In this duo, attempt to play more aggressive, and allow your Moira to do the majority of the healing. Bap Honor, this duo is potentially the most versatile, with the worst pairing being with dive. Your DPS may struggle to get any healing, Hence running self-sufficient characters such as Reaper may be optimal. You also want to be more conservative with your lamp due to the lack of any defensive ultimate or lack of escape from both support. Well, that's the guide.
Well, that's it for the entire guide, which is probably going to be around 80 to 90 minutes. If this video helped to raise your IQ, don't forget to share it with your friends to also raise theirs. Until next time.
You, big boy with that big broom, big boy how I come through, big boy with that